The red dust of Mars swirled outside the reinforced windows of Colony Base Alpha. Inside the communications center, the usual beeps and chirps of equipment created a comforting background noise as the night shift went about their duties. Captain Jaiho Park sat at his station, reviewing mining production reports when an unusual signal pattern caught his attention. At first, he thought it was interference from a solar flare, but the signal grew stronger and more distinct. The pattern was unlike anything in their database. Beside him, Communications Officer Hana Lee's fingers flew across her haptic display, trying to clean up the incoming transmission. "Captain, you need to see this," Hana called out, her voice trembling slightly. "The signal, it's not coming from Earth or any of our colonies." Jaiho leaned over her shoulder, watching as the signal crystallized into clear visual data. The image that appeared on the main screen caused everyone in the control room to freeze. The being on the screen was unmistakably alien. Tall, with iridescent scales, and multiple sets of eyes arranged in a symmetrical pattern across its face. When it spoke, the universal translation matrix took a few seconds to process its language. "People of Earth, we are the Rekari Dominion. Your primitive civilization has been observed and found wanting. Submit to our rule or face extinction." The control room erupted in chaos. Junior officers scrambled to verify the transmission, while others rushed to contact Earth. Jaiho maintained his composure, though his heart raced. Years of military training kicked in as he initiated first contact protocols. "This has to be a hoax," Hana whispered, but her scans showed the transmission originated from a massive vessel just beyond Mars orbit, a ship that had somehow appeared without triggering any of their early warning systems. Back on Earth, the response was swift. Ambassador Tadwan Kim, known for his skill in handling international crises, was immediately appointed as humanity's representative. Within hours, he had assembled a team of diplomats, linguists, and cultural experts. In his first transmission to the Rekari, Taiwan struck a careful balance between respect and dignity. "Greetings, representatives of the Rekari Dominion. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations and wish to establish diplomatic relations. Earth extends an invitation for peaceful dialogue." The Rekari's response came in the form of a laugh that sent chills down the spines of everyone who heard it. "Your attempts at diplomacy are amusing. Primitive species always try to delay the inevitable. Perhaps a demonstration of our power will help you understand your situation better." Before anyone could react, 3 massive energy beams streaked across space, targeting the orbital stations around Jupiter. Europa Station, Ganymede Base, and Callisto Observatory, all destroyed in seconds. The stations had housed families, researchers, and support staff. 843 lives, extinguished in an instant. On Mars, Jaiho watched the destruction through the colony's long-range sensors. Hana covered her mouth, fighting back tears as the death count appeared on her screen. The colony's AI calculated the energy output of those weapons. Nothing in Earth's arsenal came close to matching it. Ambassador Kim received the news during an emergency United Earth Council meeting. His hands shook as he read the casualty reports, but his voice remained steady as he addressed the council. "They expect us to break, to give in to fear. But they've made a crucial mistake. They've shown us exactly what kind of enemy we face, and in doing so, they've united humanity like never before." As the council debated their response, reports came in from every corner of Earth. Former enemy nations reached out to each other, offering military support. Underground research facilities, whose existence had been kept secret for decades, began powering up. Retired military personnel volunteered in droves. In the Mars colony, Jaiho organized emergency drills and defense preparations. Hana worked tirelessly to analyze the Rekari transmissions, looking for any weakness or pattern they could exploit. Neither of them had slept since the first contact, running on stimulants and determination. The Rekari had expected immediate surrender. Instead, they watched with growing confusion as human military vessels began moving into defensive positions as colonies activated hidden shield systems, as Earth's response took shape not in words, but in actions. 3 days after first contact, Ambassador Kim sent one final message to the Rakari. "You came to our home and killed our people. You expected us to kneel. Instead, you have awakened something you don't understand. Humanity does not surrender. We do not bow to threats, and we are no longer interested in peaceful dialogue." The message was met with silence from the Rakari ship. They had thought they were dealing with a primitive, fearful species. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. As Earth prepared for war, one thing became clear. The aliens had made a terrible mistake in provoking humanity. They just didn't know it yet. The United Earth Council chamber was packed with representatives from every nation. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Defense Minister Sun Mi-Kang walked to the podium, carrying a secure data tablet that contained humanity's best-kept secrets. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice clear and strong. "For decades, our nations have separately prepared for this day. We maintained the illusion of division while quietly cooperating on humanity's defense. Today, I reveal what we have achieved together." The massive screen behind her lit up with images of underground facilities, advanced weapons, and experimental spacecraft. Each revelation drew gasps from the assembly. These weren't merely proposals or prototypes. They were fully developed technologies, waiting to be activated. "Project Prometheus," Sun Mi announced, bringing up detailed schematics. "Hidden beneath the Antarctic ice, we have a fully operational shipyard capable of producing advanced spacecraft. Similar facilities exist beneath the Himalayas, the Sahara, and the Amazon rainforest." In the back of the chamber, Dr. Du-Young Choi watched nervously. His breakthrough in neural interface technology was about to be revealed to the world. He had spent 15 years developing it in a secret lab beneath Seoul, and now everything was about to change. "But our greatest advantage," Sun Mi continued, "lies not in our hidden facilities, but in something uniquely human." She nodded to Dr. Choi, who stood up. "Dr. Choi, please explain your discovery." Do-Young took the podium, adjusting his glasses. "We've found that human brains have a special ability. Our neural patterns can connect with artificial intelligence in ways we never imagined. While testing experimental combat systems, we discovered that human pilots could merge their consciousness with AI systems, creating a hybrid intelligence far superior to either human or machine alone." The chamber erupted in discussion. On the screens, video footage showed test pilots controlling entire squadrons of drone fighters with thought alone, moving them as naturally as their own limbs. Meanwhile, aboard the Rakari command ship, Supreme Commander Vex received reports of increased human activity. His multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among his species. "They scramble like insects before the storm," he commented to his officers. "Their primitive technology is no match for our centuries of advancement." Back on Earth, the first volunteer pilots were already connecting to the neural interface systems. In a hidden facility in Norway, a young pilot named Lisa merged with her AI for the first time. The sensation was incredible. Her consciousness expanded, connecting with the machine in perfect harmony. She could feel the aircraft, as if it were part of her own body. Dr. Choi monitored the neural patterns closely. "The human brain's adaptability is extraordinary," he explained to Minister Kang, who had come to observe. "We can process information from multiple sources simultaneously, make intuitive leaps that AIs can't, and adapt to new situations instantly. Combined with an AI's processing power, it's revolutionary." The Rakari intercepted some communications about the neural interface program, but dismissed them as propaganda. Supreme Commander Vex laughed off reports of human technological advancement. "They had barely reached their moon when we found them," he told his war council. "No species can advance that quickly." But humanity was full of surprises. In facilities worldwide, dormant production lines hummed to life. Weapons that had been theoretically impossible a decade ago were now being manufactured in massive quantities. The neural interface program was producing results that exceeded even Dr. Choi's optimistic projections. Minister Kang received hourly updates on humanity's preparations. The Rekari had unknowingly given Earth time to mobilize by assuming their demonstration of power would lead to immediate surrender. Instead, every hour made humanity stronger. They expect us to be primitive, she told the council in a follow-up session. They expect us to be divided. They don't understand that humans are at their most dangerous when backed into a corner. We have spent generations preparing for this moment, and now we will show them why you should never underestimate humanity. Dr. Choi's neural interface pilots were showing incredible results. They could control entire squadrons of automated fighters while simultaneously processing tactical data and coordinating with ground forces. The AI systems learned and adapted with them, creating a symbiotic relationship that grew stronger with each training session. The Rekari remained oblivious to the true extent of Earth's preparations. Their scans couldn't penetrate the advanced shielding around humanity's hidden facilities, and they interpreted the lack of visible military response as proof of human weakness. As the first week after first contact drew to a close, humanity was ready to reveal just how wrong the Rekari's assumptions had been. Minister Kang stood once again before the council, this time with a different message. The enemy believes they know us, she declared. They believe they can predict us. They see our patience as weakness, our preparation as fear. Let them think that. When we strike back, their overconfidence will be their undoing. The Rekari's first major miscalculation was about to become apparent. They had awakened a giant, and soon they would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or technology, but in its unfailing ability to surpass all expectations when fighting for survival. 5 kilometers beneath Mount Sorak, General Hyun Woo-baek stood before a massive blast door that hadn't been opened in 20 years. His palm print activated ancient security systems, and the door's heavy locking mechanisms disengaged with a deep rumble that shook dust from the ceiling. Project Phoenix is now active. He spoke into his command mic as the doors slowly parted. All personnel to battle stations. The lights came on in sequence, revealing a cavern large enough to house a small city. Row after row of experimental aircraft stood ready, their sleek designs unlike anything publicly known to exist. Along the walls, weapon systems that had been deemed too advanced to deploy waited for their moment. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving confirmation signals. Similar facilities are activating in the Urals, the Rocky Mountains, and beneath the Sahara." The general nodded, watching as technicians swarmed over the equipment, bringing systems online. Project Phoenix had been humanity's insurance policy, a hidden arsenal of weapons and vehicles developed using technology that was decades ahead of its time. In another section of the facility, Dr. Yan Ji-song sat before an array of quantum computers, her fingers flying over holographic keyboards as she worked to crack the Rekari communications. The captured alien signals were complex, but she had spent her entire career preparing for this challenge. "The encryption is organic," she muttered to herself, noticing patterns in the alien code. "It evolves like a living thing." This realization led her to try a new approach, using algorithms that mimicked natural selection to break the code. Meanwhile, in a heavily shielded laboratory, engineer Jin-Ho Kwon and his team gathered around their latest breakthrough. They had managed to salvage a piece of Rekari technology from a probe that had crashed near Saturn years ago. The device had been kept secret, studied in facilities like this one around the world. "Their technology isn't as advanced as they want us to believe," Jin-Ho explained to his team. "They rely heavily on intimidation. Much of their advantage comes from having had more time to develop their tech, not from any inherent superiority." His team had made an important discovery. Rekari systems were vulnerable to quantum interference. This aligned perfectly with weapons humanity had been developing in secret, weapons that could disrupt the very fabric of spacetime on a localized level. Back in the main cavern, General Baek supervised the activation of the first wave of Phoenix fighters. These aircraft could operate in both atmosphere and space, powered by zero-point energy systems that had been successfully tested but never deployed. "The Rakari think they know what we're capable of," he told his officers. "They've seen our commercial technology, our public military hardware. They have no idea what we've been hiding." In the quantum computing lab, Dr. Song's persistence finally paid off. Her screen filled with decoded Rakari transmissions. "I'm in," she shouted, immediately calling for secure transmission to command. Their entire communication network just opened up to us. The decoded messages revealed something crucial. The Rakari were not as united as they appeared. Their empire was stretched thin, maintaining control through fear and shows of force, rather than actual military superiority. Jin Ho's team made their own breakthrough almost simultaneously. They had successfully reversed-engineered the Rakari shield technology and found a critical weakness. "Their shields operate on a predictable frequency," he explained to General Bake. "We can tune our weapons to pass right through them." Throughout the facility, decades of hidden preparation were paying off. Weapons designed by the brightest minds in human history, built in secret and kept in reserve for exactly this kind of threat, were being brought online. "They thought we would be easy prey," General Buck said, watching as the first squadron of Phoenix fighters powered up. "They thought they could intimidate us into submission. Instead, they've given us exactly what we needed, a reason to reveal what humanity is truly capable of." Dr. Song's quantum computers continued decoding Rakari transmissions, providing vital intelligence about their fleet positions and battle plans. Jin Ho's team worked around the clock, applying their breakthrough to upgrade human weapons systems with the ability to penetrate Rakari defenses. The massive cavern buzzed with activity as more systems came online. Similar scenes played out in hidden facilities across the planet. Humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment, building an arsenal that could match any threat from the stars. "Send word to command," General Bake ordered. "Project Phoenix is combat-ready. We can begin deployment whenever they give the order." The Rakari, still confident in their superiority, had no idea that their every transmission was now being monitored, their tactics analyzed, their weaknesses exposed. They didn't know that deep beneath the Earth's surface, humanity had prepared an arsenal that could match and exceed their capabilities. The sleeping giant wasn't just awake. It was armed with weapons its enemies couldn't imagine, ready to reveal technology that had been kept hidden for decades. Humanity's hidden arsenal was about to turn the tide of a war the Rakari thought they had already won. The bridge of the UES Valiant hummed with tension as Admiral Min Ji-yoon studied the holographic display showing the Rakari fleet positions near Mars. After weeks of preparation, humanity was ready to reveal its true strength. The element of surprise was their greatest advantage. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her executive officer announced. "The quantum phase weapons are charged and synchronized." Min Ji nodded, her expression stern. The weapons, developed by Sung Ho Choi and his team, represented humanity's greatest technological achievement. Devices capable of phasing through Rakari shields, as if they didn't exist. "Begin Operation Thunderstrike," she commanded. "All ships, execute jump sequence on my mark." Across the solar system, hidden human warships prepared to reveal themselves. The Rakari had grown complacent, believing they had contained Earth's military capabilities. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Mark. In perfect synchronization, 200 ships appeared around the Rakari fleet. The UEA's Thunderbolt, commanded by Captain Jaho Park, led the first wave. The aliens barely had time to register the human fleet's presence before the attack began. "Fire quantum phase weapons," Jaho ordered. His ship's main cannon released a burst of energy that passed straight through the Rakari flagship's shields, striking its hull directly. The alien vessel's armor crumpled under the impact. The Rakari response was chaos. Their commanders had never seen their supposedly impenetrable shields fail. As they scrambled to adjust their defenses, Human ships executed complex maneuvers that seemed to defy conventional space combat tactics. Group 3, Execute Pattern Delta. Admiral Hume commanded. A squadron of smaller ships broke formation, their neural-linked pilots moving their vessels in perfect coordination. They weaved through enemy fire like dancers, each pilot's mind merged with their ship's eye. The Rakari dreadnought Eternal Night attempted to target the human vessels, but their traditional targeting systems couldn't predict the erratic yet purposeful movements. Captain Jeho saw his opportunity. All batteries, concentrate fire on their primary power core, he ordered. The Thunderbolt's weapons struck true, and the massive alien ship broke apart in a spectacular explosion. On the Rakari command ship, Supreme Commander Vex watched in disbelief as his forces were systematically dismantled by what he had dismissed as a primitive species. Impossible, he hissed. Their technology was decades behind ours. Admiral Yoon's strategy was working perfectly. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each targeting specific weaknesses in the Rakari formation. The alien commanders, used to fighting enemies who followed predictable patterns, couldn't adapt to humanity's seemingly chaotic but highly coordinated assault. Second dreadnought is breaking formation, Jeho reported. They're trying to retreat. His ship pursued, quantum weapons firing in precise bursts. The alien vessel's shields flickered uselessly as each shot found its mark. The space around Mars lit up with weapons fire and explosions. Human ships moved with unprecedented agility, their neural-linked pilots reacting faster than any conventional crew could manage. The Rakari, for the first time in their history, found themselves outmatched. Formation Omega, Admiral Hume commanded. Trap them against Mars' gravity well. The human fleet moved as one, forcing the remaining Rakari ships into a vulnerable position. Captain Jeho's Thunderbolt led the final assault on the third dreadnought. All power to weapons, he ordered. His crew, working in perfect synchronization with their ship's AI, executed a series of maneuvers that would have been impossible just weeks ago. The dreadnought tried to escape, but found itself caught between human ships and Mars' gravitational pull. The Thunderbolt's quantum weapons struck its engines, leaving it helpless. Your shields cannot protect you, Admiral Hume transmitted to the Rakari fleet. Your technological advantage is gone. Surrender now. The response came in the form of desperate counterattacks, but the Rakari weapons were ineffective against human ships' enhanced defenses. The battle had become one-sided, but not in the way the aliens had expected. Third dreadnought neutralized, Jeho reported. The massive alien ship drifted powerless, its crew evacuating in escape pods. The Battle of Mars, as it would come to be known, lasted less than 2 hours. When it was over, 3 Rakari dreadnoughts were destroyed, and the remaining ships were in retreat. Humanity had announced its presence as a major military power in the most dramatic way possible. Admiral Hume stood on her bridge, watching the Rakari fleet scatter. Send word to Earth, she ordered. First phase of Operation Thunderstrike successful. The enemy's myth of invincibility is broken. Captain Jeho guided the Thunderbolt through the debris field that had once been the pride of the Rakari fleet. His crew worked quietly, still processing their overwhelming victory. They had trained for this moment, but the reality of their success exceeded all expectations. The battle had proven that humanity's hidden strength wasn't just in its weapons, but in its ability to adapt and innovate. The Rakari had relied on technological superiority, while humans had focused on combining technology with unpredictable tactics and unprecedented coordination. As the dust settled over Mars, the message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The war was far from over, but its course had changed dramatically. The hunters had become the hunted, and the Rakari were about to learn just how dangerous a motivated human force could be. In her dimly lit command center beneath Seoul, Intelligence Director Soo-Jin Kang reviewed the latest data streams from Rakari networks. Her team had spent weeks mapping the aliens' communication patterns, finding weaknesses in their supposedly secure systems. Now it was time to strike where it would hurt most, their minds. "Begin Operation Nightmare," she commanded. Beside her, cyber warfare expert Jae Young-nam nodded and initiated the first phase of their psychological attack. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces as he inserted carefully crafted data packets into Rakari communication channels. "The first seeds are planted," Jae Young reported. They had discovered that Rakari culture was deeply superstitious about certain symbols and patterns. These would become weapons more powerful than any missile. The effects began subtly. Rakari crew members reported seeing strange symbols in their computer displays. Critical system readouts would momentarily display human faces before returning to normal. Security cameras caught glimpses of shadows where none should exist. "Their neural networks are far more primitive than they led us to believe," Jae Young explained to his team. "They rely on quantum encryption, but forgot to protect their basic systems. It's like having an unbreakable lock on your front door while leaving all your windows open." Soo Jin's strategy went beyond simple harassment. Her team had studied Rakari mythology, learning about their ancient fears and cultural taboos. They began inserting these elements into ship communications, making it appear as if the humans were somehow aware of the Rakari's deepest spiritual fears. In one Rakari battleship, the crew became convinced their vessel was haunted after emergency systems began playing recordings of human laughter mixed with sounds from their own religious texts. The ship's captain requested immediate transfer, claiming the humans had cursed his vessel. "Their greatest weakness is their rigid thinking," Soo Jin observed. "They can't accept that we're acting outside their expectations. It's driving them mad." Reports spread through the Rakari fleet of human ships appearing and disappearing at will, of weapons that ignored physical laws, of Earth forces knowing things they couldn't possibly know. Each story grew in the telling, enhanced by the psychological warfare team's carefully placed suggestions. Jae Young's cyber attacks became more bold. During one battle, he managed to project a massive hologram of ancient Rakari death omens across their fleet. Several ships broke formation in panic, leading to a crushing defeat. "We're not just fighting their ships," Soo Jin explained to Earth's military command. "We're fighting their confidence, their certainty, their sense of superiority. Every victory makes them question everything they thought they knew about us." The Rakari command struggled to maintain control as morale crumbled. Their crews, used to being the most advanced species in any battle, couldn't handle being systematically outmaneuvered by what they had considered primitive beings. "Let them see shadows in every corner," Soo Jin instructed her team. "Let them fear what humans might do next, because their imagination will create worse scenarios than we ever could." Jae Young's team discovered how to tap into the Rakari ship's environmental systems. They began altering lighting patterns in ways that the aliens found deeply disturbing, playing with atmospheric pressure to create unsettling sounds, and introducing subtle vibrations that matched frequencies the Rakari found terrifying. The psychological impact was devastating. Rakari crews began requesting transfers away from Earth operations. Some ships refused to engage human vessels, claiming they were marked by dark powers. The aliens' strict hierarchical structure began breaking down as fear overwhelmed training. "Their entire society is built on the belief that they're superior," Soo Jin noted. "We're not just defeating them in battle, we're destroying their entire worldview." Stories spread through the Rakari fleet. Humans could read minds. Humans could walk through walls. Humans could curse ships with a single transmission. None of it was true, but the aliens' own fears made them believe increasingly wild tales. In one particularly effective operation, Jae Young's team managed to make it appear as if human forces had somehow learned the Rakari's most sacred battle prayers and were using them mockingly in combat transmissions. Several alien commanders surrendered rather than face what they saw as an impossible violation of their spiritual beliefs. "The best weapon against an arrogant enemy," Soo Jin told her staff, "is to make them doubt everything they think they know. We don't need to defeat every ship. We just need to make them too afraid to fight." The campaign reached its peak when Jae Young managed to insert a virus that made Rakari ships' computers display countdown timers to what their mythology called the Great Darkness. Entire battle groups retreated rather than risk facing whatever the humans had planned for 0 hour. Su Jin watched with satisfaction as reports came in of Rakari ships refusing orders, of crews demanding to be relieved of duty, of commanders unable to maintain discipline among troops convinced they were fighting an enemy that defied natural law. They came expecting to find simple, primitive humans, she said, reviewing the latest intelligence. Instead, they found an enemy that seems to break every rule they know, that strikes at their deepest fears, that seems to know things no outsider should know. The Rakari's greatest weakness had turned out to be their own superiority complex. They couldn't adapt to an enemy that refused to fight according to their rules, that seemed to understand them better than they understood themselves, that turned their own beliefs and fears against them. As the psychological warfare campaign continued, the once mighty Rakari fleet began to disintegrate from within. They had come to conquer Earth, but instead found themselves facing an enemy that haunted their dreams and shook their convictions. The humans hadn't just outfought them. They had gotten inside their minds, and that was a defeat from which the Rakari might never recover. Commander Da Hyun-ryu's small fleet hid in the shadow of a massive asteroid, waiting patiently. His ships were painted in dark colors that absorbed radar, making them nearly invisible against the rocky backdrop. The crew maintained complete radio silence as they tracked the approaching Rakari supply convoy. 3 minutes to contact, his tactical officer whispered, though sound couldn't travel in space. The tension on the bridge was palpable as they watched the alien ships follow their predictable route through the asteroid belt. The Rakari had grown desperate for supplies after 6 months of Da Hyun's raids. Their once mighty supply lines were in shambles, forcing them to take risks by sending larger convoys through dangerous territory. All ships execute attack pattern Sigma, Da Hyun ordered through a tight beam transmission that couldn't be detected more than a few kilometers away. His fleet of 12 ships broke cover simultaneously, emerging from behind different asteroids like wolves surrounding their prey. The Rakari convoy never stood a chance. Before they could raise shields, quantum phase torpedoes struck their engines. The human ships darted between asteroids, using the terrain for cover while picking apart the convoy's defenses. Back on the Rakari homeworld, news of yet another supply line destruction caused riots in the capital city. The public had been told the war against Earth would be quick and easy. Instead, their forces faced defeat after defeat. The humans are everywhere and nowhere, one Rakari captain's report read. They strike without warning, vanish without trace. We cannot adapt to their tactics because they never use the same approach twice. Other alien civilizations watched the conflict with growing interest. The Centaurians, who had initially provided technical support to the Rakari, quietly withdrew their advisors. The Proximan Empire canceled their military alliance with the Rakari, citing strategic concerns. In the asteroid belt, Da Hyun's guerrilla campaign continued relentlessly. His crews had learned to use the asteroids not just for cover, but as weapons. They would attach silent propulsion units to massive rocks, turning them into stealth missiles that could devastate Rakari formations. They expect us to fight like them, he told his officers during a strategy session. They expect organized fleets, proper battle lines, predictable tactics. Instead, we give them chaos, uncertainty, and fear. The Rakari military leadership faced growing criticism from their civilian government. Their society had been built on the belief in their technological and tactical superiority. Now they struggled to explain how a primitive species was systematically dismantling their military might. Reports from Earth's intelligence services revealed the extent of the Rakari's internal crisis. Food shortages began appearing in outer colonies as supply ships failed to arrive. Military recruitment dropped to historic lows as young Rakari refused to fight in what many now called the human nightmare. Sir, another convoy detected, Da Hyun's sensor officer reported. This one was larger than usual, with heavy escort ships. "They're getting desperate." The commander smiled. Larger convoys meant bigger targets. His fleet had grown too, as more ships joined his successful campaign. What had started as a nuisance operation had evolved into a strategic nightmare for the Rakari. "Launch the ghost drones," he ordered. These unmanned vessels, barely more than engines and sensor packages, would dart through the asteroid field, appearing as human warships on Rakari sensors. The aliens would waste time and energy chasing phantoms while the real attack came from an unexpected direction. On distant worlds, military analysts studied reports of human tactics with growing respect and fear. Species that had dismissed Earth as an insignificant backwater world now sent diplomatic feelers, seeking to establish relations before humanity grew too powerful. The Rakari Supreme Commander faced a hostile council meeting. "How can you lose battles to creatures who barely had spaceflight when we found them?" One council member demanded. "They don't fight like any species we've encountered." The commander tried to explain. "They adapt faster than we can develop countermeasures. They think in ways that defy military logic." Dahyun's latest raid captured not just supplies, but critical military intelligence. The Rakari were pulling forces from other sectors, trying desperately to secure their supply lines. Their empire was beginning to crumble under the strain. "They built their strategy on the assumption that we would be predictable," he told his crew after another successful mission. "They thought we would follow their rules of warfare. Instead, we made them play our game." The breaking point came when 3 major Rakari colony worlds demanded independence, refusing to send more resources to support the war effort. The alien empire, which had stood for centuries, began to splinter under the pressure of repeated defeats. In the asteroid belt, Dahyun's forces continued their relentless campaign. Each successful raid not only denied the enemy crucial supplies, but also sent a message. Humans would not be conquered, would not be predicted, would not be understood by those who thought themselves superior. As the war entered its final phase, Earth's reputation throughout the galaxy underwent a dramatic transformation. Species that had once viewed humans as primitive now spoke of them with a mixture of respect and fear. The race that had turned the mighty Rakari Empire's strength against itself was not one to be underestimated. The lesson was clear to all who watched. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in its weapons or technology, but in its ability to adapt, to think differently, to turn apparent weakness into unexpected strength. The galaxy would never be the same, and the Rakari's greatest mistake had been giving humans the chance to prove just how dangerous they could be. The Earth hung like a blue jewel in the darkness of space as the largest fleet battle in human history was about to begin. Admiral Min Ji-yoon stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, surveying the tactical display showing both human and Rakari fleet positions. This would be the final battle. Either humanity would secure its place among the stars, or the Rakari would have their revenge. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer announced. The combined human fleet represented every nation on Earth, a sight that would have been unimaginable just 2 years ago. The Rakari fleet appeared from hyperspace in waves, their remaining ships gathered for one final push. Their supreme commander had been replaced after the disasters in the asteroid belt, and their new leader was young, aggressive, and determined to restore Rakari pride. "Begin Operation Starburst," Min Ji ordered. Her plan was unlike anything attempted in the history of space warfare. Instead of meeting the Rakari in traditional ship-to-ship combat, the human fleet split into smaller groups, each executing seemingly random maneuvers. Ambassador Taiwan Kim watched the battle unfold from a secure bunker beneath Geneva. He had already drafted the peace terms, confident in humanity's victory. The document contained demands that would have been unthinkable when the war began. The space around Earth lit up as the battle began. Human ships darted between Rakari formations, their neural-linked pilots performing maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. The aliens tried to establish battle lines, but found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to behave predictably. "Quantum phase weapons, full spread," Min Ji commanded. The human fleet released a barrage that passed through Rakari shields as if they didn't exist. Years of studying alien technology had led to this moment. The Rakari commander attempted to rally his forces, but morale was already breaking. Their crews had heard too many stories about human ingenuity, had seen too many impossible defeats. When several ships began showing signs of retreating, the commander made a fatal mistake. He threatened to destroy Earth itself. Now, Minji ordered, hidden defense platforms around the planet activated, revealing Earth's final surprise. A web of quantum energy surrounded the planet, creating a shield more powerful than anything the Rakari had ever encountered. The alien fleet found itself caught between the advancing human ships and the impenetrable planetary shield. Their commander's threats had played directly into Minji's strategy, allowing her to spring the trap that would end the war. "Attention, Rakari fleet," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You are surrounded. Your shields are useless. Your supply lines are cut. Surrender now, or face complete destruction." In Geneva, Taiwan watched as the Rakari command ship's signal changed to indicate surrender. His team of diplomats and xenolinguists prepared for the negotiations that would reshape the galaxy's power structure. The Rakari fleet lowered their shields one ship at a time. Their crew members watched in stunned silence as human ships took up escort positions around them. The mighty empire that had fought to conquer Earth was now at humanity's mercy. The peace conference began 3 days later. Taiwan led the human delegation, facing Rakari representatives who struggled to accept their new reality. The terms were harsh but fair: significant technology transfers to Earth, recognition of human sovereignty over the solar system, and reparations for the destroyed colonies. "You must understand," Taiwan explained to the Rakari diplomats, "we don't seek to destroy your civilization. We want to ensure that no species ever again makes the mistake of underestimating humanity." As news of the victory spread across Earth, celebrations broke out in every city. Humanity had not just survived. It had emerged stronger, more unified, and ready to take its place among the stars. The Rakari delegates signed the peace treaty 1 week after the final battle. Their once mighty empire would survive, but as a shadow of its former self. More importantly, they had learned a lesson that the galaxy would not soon forget. Admiral Min Ji-yoon attended the signing ceremony, still wearing her fleet uniform. She watched as Taiwan and the Rakari representatives formalized the peace that would begin a new era for both species. In the years that followed, humanity expanded rapidly into space. The technology gained from the Rakari accelerated human development by centuries. Earth's ships began exploring distant stars, making contact with other civilizations who now treated humans with cautious respect. The war had changed humanity too. The nations of Earth remained united, understanding that they were stronger together than apart. The threat of extinction had forced humanity to overcome its internal divisions and reveal its true potential. As Earth's influence grew throughout the galaxy, the story of the Rakari War became a cautionary tale. It wasn't just about military victory. It was about the danger of underestimating a species' potential, about the power of unity in the face of extinction, and about the indomitable human spirit. The final lines of Taiwan's history of the war summed it up best. "We were not stronger, or more advanced, or more numerous. We simply refused to accept defeat. In doing so, we proved that humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology or our weapons. It was our unwavering determination to survive and thrive against any odds." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had awakened, and the stars themselves would never be the same.